Now let's break down our next story of the day and discuss the latest with a big Bitcoin victory thanks to Tucker Carlson and Javier Milei. Let's break this down, shall we? So here we go. Javier Milei is considered to be the front runner to be the Argentina's next president. The Bitcoin-friendly presidential candidate recently attracted the crypto community's interest, owing to the rise of the Bitcoin price following his win in the recent primary election, as we've been covering here in the show. The candidate is known for his strong views against the control of central banks and economies. Ahead of the broadcast, Carlson described the candidate as probably the next president of Argentina, quoting him here. Javier Milei in Buenos Aires, enemy of the Washington Post, and probably the next president of Argentina. Let me know your thoughts. I personally think absolutely, considering the interview, and I'm going to be sharing the highlights from this recent interview with Tucker, just based on that, the fact I get over 300 million views in like 18 hours goes to show you how much the people demand and want this guy to continue to speak and represent them. Argentina is a big country. What if, hypothetically, he was elected president, which there is a very strong chance of happening, and he adopts Bitcoin as the legal tender? Then game on. And we already have Max Keiser, who tweeted, or on X, he posted right before I went live, he's going to be visiting Milei in Argentina. And we already know Max is responsible for orange pilling some of the biggest in the space, from Michael Saylor all the way to Ricardo Salinas, the third richest man in Mexico, you know, the billionaire. So shout out to Max Keiser. Love what you're doing, fam. And I appreciate all the support. I know you reposted today's show on X, so can't say, much more great things about you, because what you're doing is fantastic, and I greatly appreciate it, of course, fam. But anyways, this could be a particularly big boost for Bitcoin hodlers, as Milei's election as the next Argentine president can likely bring in yet another head of the country in support of digital assets after Nayib Bukele, the current president of El Salvador. Bukele had created history by becoming the first leader in the world to adopt Bitcoin as the legal tender. In response to the statement, a Bitcoin supporter stated that Carlson should ask the presidential candidate if he'll consider making Bitcoin a legal tender in Argentina. I mean, wouldn't you want to know that question, the answer to that question as well? Meanwhile, details on the exact date and time have already taken place. So that was just a little preview. Now, here is the post right here. Episode 24. Argentina's next president could be Javier Milei. Who is he? We had traveled to Buenos Aires to speak with him and find out. And as you can see here, 336 million views. I'm going to refresh it. I bet you it's higher from 10 minutes ago when I pulled this up. Let's see. 339.6 million views. Let's freaking go. And as Max Keiser shares right here, Tucker plus Javier heading to 500 million views in 24 hours. Heck, let's send it to 1 billion. Shouldn't we? Let's do it. Everyone repost this interview. The appetite in the Spanish-speaking world for truthful economics reporting is unbelievably huge. And I could say that 100% as well as I agree. And as Max points out here, I am scheduling a trip to Argentina to meet with Javier Milei. Bitcoin and Hayek are at the top of the agenda, and then he quotes Milei, make money private again, right? Now for the highlights from the actual interview, which just took place, was just released roughly 18 hours ago on X exclusively. As you know, Tucker is infamous from being on Fox. He left Fox or got fired. I don't know all the details behind the scenes, but he left. And now his episodes on X are getting hundreds of millions of views per show. So I bet you Fox is really disappointed and whatever happened with him leaving, because, I mean, he was probably getting less than 10 million views per episode on the major network. But now that he is on X, it's going viral, everything this man does. So it's incredible. So much respect to Tucker Carlson as well. Anyways, here are the highlights from the actual interview. I'm going to share as much as I could in the limited time that I have, and then we'll do a little bit of live Q&A before I got to pick up my daughter from school. So anyways, we're in downtown Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina, and he gives a beautiful intro, and he talks about how hyperinflation is destroying the economy, which is so sad to see. Quoting him here, you see it when you have dinner here at restaurants and people pull out bricks of local currency, the peso, to pay. It feels like Weimar Germany or Zimbabwe, but it's not. It's a developed country that's moving backwards at high speed. And because of the frustration that's built up across the population, particularly amongst the poor people, a man called Javier Milei is poised to become its next president. Let's freaking go. I say, let's get this guy in office sooner than later. But who is the guy? A former soccer star goalie, a performer in the Rolling Stones cover band, and a libertarian economist. this, but not libertarian like an American libertarian. And let me get to some of the questions specifically Tucker asked Milei. So his first question, Carlson asked Milei to explain his popularity, and he shared, Argentina is a country that has embraced socialist ideas for the last 100 years. So classic liberalism is a natural form of rebellion against the system, and rebellion is always led by the youth. When they look at me, they see someone talking about liberalism and rebelling against the status quo. The opposite of what you think when you look at President Biden, right, fam? Let me know, chat. Carlson responded by asking how anyone can support Argentina's socialist status quo, given how it's wrecked the country's economy and made everyone poor. In response, Milei explained how leftists used the guise of social justice to fool the people. Quoting him here, Argentina's embrace of socialist ideas began with the idea that seems attractive but is actually a terrifying way to operate an economic system. The idea where there is a need, there is a right. It's a problem because there can be infinite needs. Yeah, exactly. But someone always has to pay for those rights, and the resources for that are finite. That sparks a conflict between infinite needs and infinite resources. So in the liberalist views, the conflict is easy to resolve through economic freedom and private property. This is a natural mechanism to resolve this tension in a society, but the socialists don't much like the invisible hand. They prefer the claws of the state, right? Now, they hide it behind the discourse of social justice. This sort of social justice is deeply unpopular because it is premeditated by unequal treatment under the law and preceded by a robbery. Preach. I mean, this man is speaking my language. Now, during the course of the interview, Carlson asked Milei what advice he'd give to GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. Interesting response here. I would tell him to continue his fight against socialism because he is one of the few who truly understand what the fight against socialists and status mean. He perfectly understood that wealth creation resides in the private sector. Facts. He also says the state doesn't create wealth, it destroys it. Preach. The state cannot give anything because it doesn't produce anything. And when it wants to do it, it does it horribly. From my humble position, the only thing I would say is he should double his efforts in the direction of defending the ideas of freedom without giving an inch to the socialists. So there you have it, fam. I mean, those are just some of the highlights. Obviously, I would encourage you to check out the interview directly from Tucker Carlson. I haven't even watched the entire thing yet. I watched half of it. I was pretty excited. I'm looking forward to watching the second half. And yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to Max Keiser as well, the high priest of Bitcoin, sharing his 2 Satoshis. I mean, especially getting a private interview with Javier Milei, because we know it'll be Bitcoin focused, whereas the interview with Tucker wasn't focused on Bitcoin whatsoever. So you got to keep that in mind. So I'll be looking forward to that interview with Max, and as soon as it's released, I'll be sharing all the juicy details with each and every one of you. And I'm sure I'll even personally transcribe it myself so you can get those insights firsthand.